Harold Wilcox had spent $3 million on specialists, 27 doctors, 14 different diagnoses, 5 years of silence. His triplet sons Ethan, Lucas, and Noah hadn't spoken a single word since birth. But the $67 an hour maid, she had them laughing, at 2 in the morning, in the dark, when she was supposed to be sleeping. Harold installed the cameras to catch her being lazy. He'd heard the complaints from his medical team. She's overstepping. She's interfering with protocols. She's undisciplined. He expected to find her asleep on his Italian leather couch. Instead, he found her on her knees in his son's room, hands moving in patterns he'd never seen, tears streaming down her face, whispering prayers between each gentle touch to their tiny hands. And his sons, his unreachable, silent, frozen sons, were reaching back. What Harold saw in those recordings didn't just change his mind about Miranda Keith. It exposed a truth that would bring his entire world crashing down. But to understand how a billionaire could be so blind, you need to see where this story really began. Before we continue, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I believe this story found you today for a reason, but to understand how a billionaire could be so blind, you need to see where this story really began. The Wilcox estate sat on 40 acres overlooking the harbor. Georgian architecture, marble floors that gleamed like ice under crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the ocean like expensive paintings no one ever looked at. Silent, empty, cold. A house built for laughter that had never heard it. Harold Wilcox was 43 years old and worth $8.4 billion. He was CEO of Wilcox Hospitality Group, a luxury hotel empire that stretched across 200 properties worldwide. His name opened doors. His signature moved markets. His word could make or break careers. But he couldn't reach his own sons. Ethan, Lucas, and Noah were 5 years old. Triplets, born 3 minutes apart on a November morning that took their mother and left Harold holding 3 tiny, silent miracles he didn't know how to love. Caroline had hemorrhaged during delivery. The doctors saved the boys. They couldn't save her. Harold had spent 5 years trying to forgive himself for that. 5 years wondering if maybe God had made a mistake. 3 lives for one. The math didn't balance. The boys had never spoken, not once. Not a single word. Severe autism spectrum disorder, the specialists said. Sensory processing disorder, developmental delays, maybe a genetic component, maybe neurological abnormalities, maybe. 27 specialists, 14 different diagnoses, $3 million in treatments. Speech therapy, 6 different types. Occupational therapy. Pharmaceutical interventions, 4 medications tried, all failures. Behavioral therapy, nutritional protocols, craniosacral therapy, every cutting-edge treatment money could buy. 0 progress. The specialists all said the same thing eventually. There's nothing more we can do. Some children just can't be reached. So Harold stopped trying to reach them. He left for the office at 6 every morning, returned at 8 every night. The boys existed in the East Wing with rotating nannies who never lasted more than 3 months. Too difficult, they all said. Too unreachable. Mealtimes were silent. Ethan touched his ears obsessively, 12 times an hour, like he was trying to block out sounds only he could hear. Lucas stared at his hands, turning them over and over, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Noah rocked. Just rocked, back and forth, empty eyes focused on nothing. Harold's sons lived in a world he couldn't enter, and every specialist he hired told him the same thing. There's nothing more we can do. But every night, Harold stood in their doorway and watched them sleep. Every night, he touched the photograph of Caroline on his desk, her holding 3 newborns, smiling, hours before she died. Every night, he whispered, "I'm sorry. I don't know how to reach them." In a house filled with everything money could buy, Harold Wilcox had nothing that mattered. He'd built an empire. but he couldn't build a bridge to his own sons. And that's where Miranda Keith found him. Desperate, hopeless, surrounded by wealth that meant nothing and silence that meant everything. She was just supposed to clean. But Miranda had never been good at staying in her lane. Miranda Keith was 38 years old and 3 months behind on rent. $4,200. That's what the eviction notice said. Bright orange paper taped to her apartment door where all the neighbors could see it. Her daughter Lily's epilepsy medication cost $840 a month. Insurance had denied the claim. Pre-existing condition, they said. As if a 9-year-old could choose to have seizures. Miranda had been a professional maid for 12 years. Good at it, thorough, reliable, invisible when she needed to be. But she'd been fired from her last 2 positions for the same reason, getting too involved. At the Hendersons, she'd noticed their elderly mother had bed sores the nurses were ignoring. She'd reported it. They let her go the next day. At the Castellanoses, she'd seen the nanny locking the special needs daughter in the bathroom. She'd told the parents. The nanny was family. Miranda wasn't. So when Mrs. Brennan interviewed her for the Wilcox position 3 weeks ago, Miranda knew exactly what to say. This is a professional position, Miss Keith. You clean. You do not engage with the children. We have medical staff for that. Is that clear? Of course. I understand. $67 an hour, 40 hours a week, $2,680 every 7 days. Exactly enough for rent and Lily's medication if she kept her mouth shut. This was her last chance. Miranda's first day, she was assigned to the East Wing, the boys' wing. She saw them through the playroom doorway. 3 identical 5-year-olds, dark hair, pale skin, beautiful, completely silent. Ethan sat cross-legged on the floor, touching his ears. Over and over. Touch, release. Touch, release. Lucas stared at his hands, turning them slowly in the light. He never looked up. Noah rocked. Back and forth, empty eyes staring at nothing. The medical staff, 2 women in scrubs, sat on the far side, scrolling through their phones. Are they okay? Miranda asked. One woman didn't look up. They're fine. Just let them stim. Doctor's orders. Miranda returned to dusting. But she kept watching. Classical music played softly. Vivaldi. Spring movement. And Ethan's hands moved in rhythm to it. Perfectly synchronized. Touch on the downbeat, release on the upbeat. He wasn't stimming randomly. He was conducting. Most people saw broken children. Miranda saw children trying to communicate. She touched the silver cross hanging around her neck. Rebecca's cross. Her sister had worn it every day until the cancer took her voice, then her breath, then everything. Rebecca had been a pediatric speech therapist. She died 6 years ago in Miranda's arms, whispering one final request. She'd written it on a notepad when the brain metastases stole her ability to speak. Promise me, fight for the ones with no voice. Miranda had promised, and these 3 boys, silent, dismissed, unreachable, looked exactly like the kind of children Rebecca meant. Miranda knew she should stay in her lane. She needed this job. Lily needed her medication. They needed a roof. Just observe, she told herself. Just watch. Don't get involved. But that night, lying awake while Lily slept in the next room, Miranda couldn't stop seeing Ethan's hands moving to music no one else noticed. She couldn't stop hearing Rebecca's voice. Fight for them. And she knew, the way you know things in your bones, that watching was never going to be enough. Not for her. Not for them. The first week, Miranda just watched. She watched Ethan touch his ears exactly 12 times every hour, always when the room got too loud, always when someone moved too quickly near him. She watched Lucas track movement in his peripheral vision. He never looked directly at anyone, but his eyes followed her dust cloth. He was paying attention. He just couldn't show it. She watched Noah rock for exactly 3 minutes, then stop, then start again. Perfectly timed. Self-regulating. They weren't unreachable. They were drowning in input they couldn't process. Rebecca had taught her this. Sensory-seeking behaviors, the body's desperate attempt to create order out of chaos. Miranda knew what she was seeing, and she knew she could help. She lasted 6 days. On the 7th night, 2 in the morning, Miranda heard soft whimpering from the boy's wing. She'd fallen asleep in the staff break room after a double shift. The night medical staff were asleep in the adjacent room, one of them snoring. Ethan was awake in his small bed, touching his ears frantically, tears streaming down his face. Miranda knelt beside him. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered. "It's okay." Too loud. She gently took his hand, guided it away from his ear, applied firm pressure to his palm instead. Rebecca's technique: redirect the sensory seeking. Ethan stilled. Then he looked at her. Direct eye contact. First time ever, and in that moment, Miranda saw him, really saw him, and he saw her back. The next night, Miranda came prepared. Origami paper. She sat between the 3 small beds and folded simple stars while the boys slept, left one on each nightstand. Yellow for Ethan, blue for Lucas, green for Noah. The following morning, Lucas was holding his blue star, turning it over in his hands, first object he'd ever held deliberately. Miranda folded more stars that night, different colors, different sizes. The boys began waiting for her, no longer crying, just watching, expecting. Miranda spent lunch breaks at the public library researching on the computers. Sensory integration therapy. She couldn't afford internet at home, but she could learn. And every night at 2 a.m., while the medical staff slept, Miranda worked. For Ethan, firm pressure on shoulders and palms, then gentle ear massage, desensitizing him slowly. For Lucas, hand-over-hand activities with the paper stars, building connection. For Noah, rhythmic rocking with eye contact and humming, helping him regulate. Always at 2 a.m., always while everyone else slept, always in near darkness, just a soft nightlight. She was breaking every rule Mrs. Brennan had given her, and she didn't care. By week 2, the changes were small, invisible to everyone else, but not to Miranda. Ethan touched his ears only 4 times an hour now, down from 12. Lucas made brief eye contact, twice in one day. Noah reached for her hand during rocking, initiated touch, chose connection. They were waking up. 3 little boys the world had written off were finding their way back, and Miranda Keith, 38 years old, 3 months behind on rent, drowning in medical bills, she was the one showing them the door. Her calloused hands guided them gently through the darkness. Her tired eyes watched for signs of progress no one else would notice. Her voice hummed lullabies Rebecca used to sing. All she needed was time, and to not get caught. On day 17, Mrs. Brennan summoned Miranda to her office. "The medical team has expressed concerns." Miranda stood in the doorway. Mrs. Brennan sat behind her desk, hands folded. Dr. Cross stood beside her, arms crossed. "Miss Keith has been observed engaging with the children outside her duties," Dr. Cross said. "Yesterday, I saw her signing to Lucas in the playroom." Miranda's heart sank. She'd been teaching him basic sign language, simple words. More. Help. Please. "This is inappropriate," Mrs. Brennan said. "You are not qualified to interact with special needs children. You are here to clean." "I was just—" "One more complaint, Miss Keith, and you're terminated. Are we clear?" Miranda swallowed. "Yes, ma'am. You may go." Miranda walked out, down the hallway, around the corner, and stopped. Voices ahead. Dr. Grantham and Dr. Cross. "She's overstepping," Dr. Grantham said. "If she keeps this up, the family might start questioning our protocols. Should we recommend her termination?" "Not yet, but document everything. If she becomes a problem, we need cause." Miranda pressed against the wall, held her breath. They walked past without seeing her, crystal clear. They didn't see her as unprofessional. They saw her as a threat, because she was actually helping. That afternoon, Mrs. Brennan stood in Harold's office while he finished a conference call. He ended it, rubbed his eyes. What is it? The maid is becoming difficult, Harold sighed. Then fire her. I've issued a warning, but I suspect she's doing things when we're not watching. Like what? I can't say for certain. That's the problem. Harold leaned back. Tired. So tired. One more thing he didn't have energy for. Then let's be certain. Call security. I want cameras in the boys' wing. Bedroom, playroom, hallway, bathroom entry. Yes, sir. If she's stealing or being negligent, I'll have proof. And she's gone. The cameras went in overnight. Miranda had her one day off that week, Wednesday, to take Lily to an appointment. Security worked quickly. 4 cameras. Hidden behind vents, in ceiling fixtures. Invisible unless you knew where to look. Feed went directly to Harold's office monitors. Thursday morning, Miranda returned to work. No idea she was being watched. That night, she sat in her car outside the mansion. Phone pressed to her ear. "Mum," the pharmacy called. Lily said. Voice small, scared. "They can't refill without payment." Miranda closed her eyes. "I know, baby. I'm working on it. When will you be home?" "Late, but I'll kiss you goodnight, promise." She ended the call. Stared at the mansion. 2 more weeks. Keep this job 2 more weeks. Rent, medication, both. But the boys. If she stopped now, they'd lose everything. Ethan making eye contact. Lucas signing back. Noah smiling. They were so close. Her daughter's medication, or 3 boys' only chance. Miranda touched Rebecca's cross. "God, I don't know what you want from me. I can't do both. I can't save everyone." Silence. No answer. No sign. No peace. Just the weight of impossible choice. Miranda got out. Walked toward the service entrance. She'd made her decision. Not because she heard God's voice. Because she couldn't bear those 3 boys reaching for her in the dark and finding nothing. Even if it cost her everything. However, before we continue with what happened next, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. And like this video. My grandma says I can't have up to 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove her wrong. Let's show her the power of community. Don't let you be the reason we don't get up to 1,000 subscribers. 6 years ago, Miranda sat beside a hospital bed and watched her sister die. Rebecca had been a pediatric speech therapist, the kind who took cases no one else would, the kind who worked for free when families couldn't pay, the kind who gave everything to everyone else. Stage 4, breast cancer. No insurance. Couldn't afford treatment. In the final weeks, the tumors spread to her brain, stole her ability to speak. Rebecca would try to form words, tears of frustration streaming down her face, Miranda holding her hand, saying, "It's okay, Becca. I'm here. I understand." But she didn't understand. Rebecca was trying to say something important, something urgent. Finally, Rebecca grabbed a notepad. Shaky handwriting, letters barely legible. "Promise me, fight for the ones with no voice." Miranda had pressed the notepad to her chest. "I promise. I promise." Rebecca died that night, silent, and Miranda had carried the guilt ever since. I should have learned to understand her sooner. I should have fought harder for better care. Now, Sunday morning, Miranda knelt at Rebecca's grave. Small cemetery on the edge of town, simple headstone. Rebecca Ann Keith, speech therapist. Voice for the voiceless. "Becca, I found them," Miranda whispered. "The ones you told me to fight for. 3 little boys who can't speak, who everyone's given up on." Her voice broke. "But if I help them, I lose my job. And if I lose my job, Lily loses her medication." The wind moved through the trees. "Nothing else. You said fight for them, but what if fighting for them means I can't fight for my own daughter? What kind of mother does that make me?" She waited. No answer, no peace, just the empty ache of an impossible choice. Miranda touched the silver cross around her neck. Rebecca's cross. "I need a sign, please. Just tell me what to do." Silence. She drove to the mansion. prayed the entire way. God, if you want me to stop, close the door. Make it clear, please. When she arrived, the side entrance stood open. Mrs. Brennan had forgotten to lock it. That's not a sign, Miranda told herself. That's just a coincidence. But she felt the pull toward the boy's wing, that familiar tug in her chest that had never steered her wrong. Or maybe, she whispered, maybe that's exactly the sign I asked for. 2:47 a.m., boy's bedroom. Miranda knelt between 3 small beds. The boys were awake, waiting for her. They'd started anticipating her arrival, a new behavior, a sign of trust. Ethan reached for her hand immediately. Lucas made eye contact, brief but deliberate. Noah had stopped rocking, just waiting, watching. They need me, Miranda thought, and maybe that's enough. She began the session, gentle pressure on Ethan's shoulders, hand over hand with Lucas, rhythmic humming with Noah, and she whispered a prayer while she worked. God, I'm scared. I don't know if this is right, but I can't walk away. If this is what you're asking, guide my hands, please. Above her, tucked into the ceiling fixture, a tiny red light blinked. Recording. In Harold's office 3 floors away, a monitor glowed, but Harold wasn't there. Business trip. Singapore. Wouldn't be back for 3 days. The footage saved automatically to the hard drive. Every gentle touch, every whispered prayer, every moment of faith, documented. Miranda had no idea her prayer was being recorded, that every moment was being captured, and that the man who would watch it was about to have his entire world destroyed. Night 23, 2:47 a.m. Miranda knelt between 3 small beds, soft nightlight casting shadows, Caroline's music box playing in the background, the lullaby Harold wound up every night, hoping his sons might somehow hear their mother's love in the melody. Tonight, Miranda had brought something new. Textured fabrics, silk, velvet, cotton, building tactile vocabulary, connecting sensation to emotion, one of Rebecca's techniques. She started with Ethan, guided his small hand across the silk, smooth, cool, different from anything he'd felt before. Then, slowly, she brought his hand to her face. Therapeutic touch, building connection between sensation and emotion, trust through gentleness. Ethan's fingers traced her jawline, her cheek, her lips. Miranda whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm listening. I always listen." Ethan's mouth opened. A small sound emerged. Miranda froze. Ethan tried again. Ma. Miranda's tears started. She couldn't stop them. Ethan looked directly into her eyes. Clearer now, deliberate. Mama. Time stopped. Miranda couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at this beautiful boy who'd just spoken his first word. Ethan said it again. Mama. Then Lucas turned his head toward them. First initiated social attention he'd ever shown. Noah stopped rocking completely. First voluntary cessation, just watching. Present. All 3 boys looking at Miranda. She pulled Ethan into her arms. Yes, baby. Yes. I hear you. I hear you. Mama, Ethan said again. 3rd time. Confident now. Miranda sobbed, laughed, held him like she'd never let go. Lucas reached out, touched her shoulder. First initiated touch. Noah scooted closer. First independent movement toward another person. All 3 of them. Connected. Present. Here. For the first time in 5 years, these boys weren't alone in their world. They'd found a door out, and her name was Mama. Miranda held them, all 3, rocking gently. Still holding Ethan, she whispered a prayer through her tears. Thank you, God. Thank you. You answered. You really answered. She rocked all 3 boys, humming. They were calm, present, connected. This was why, she thought. This moment. This was what Rebecca meant, and it was worth everything. Every risk, Every sleepless night, every moment of terror that she'd lose her job, her home, Lily's medication, worth it. Because 3 little boys who'd been written off by 27 specialists had just found their voices. Above her, tucked into the ceiling fixture, a tiny red light blinked. Recording. The camera captured everything in perfect detail. Audio clear. Ethan's small voice saying, "Mama." Video clear. Miranda's tears, her joy, the boys reaching for her. Timestamp 2:07 a.m. File saved automatically. Bedroom cam, night 23. MP4. She had given them a miracle, and she had no idea she'd just signed her own termination papers. 3 floors away, Harold's office sat empty, monitor glowing, recording saved to the hard drive. Waiting for the moment he'd return from Singapore, waiting for the moment he'd see what his cameras had captured, waiting for the moment everything would fall apart. But Miranda didn't know that yet. Right now, she just held 3 little boys in her arms and thanked God for answered prayers. Right now, that was enough. 3 days later, Harold returned from Singapore, exhausted, jet-lagged, ready to collapse into bed. Mrs. Brennan was waiting in the foyer. "Mr. Wilcox, we need to discuss the maid." Harold sighed. "What now?" "I think you need to see the camera footage." Harold's office. Mrs. Brennan queued up the recordings. Harold sat behind his desk, barely paying attention. Then he saw it. Miranda, entering the boys' room at 2:47 a.m., kneeling beside their beds, touching them. "What the hell is she doing?" His voice turned ice-cold. He watched her hands on Ethan's face, watched the boys reaching for her, heard Ethan's small voice. "Mama." "She's manipulating them," Harold said. "She's trying to replace Caroline." Mrs. Brennan nodded. "She's been doing this for weeks, every night. Unsupervised contact with your vulnerable children." Harold called Dr. Grantham immediately. 20 minutes later, the doctor stood in Harold's office, watching the footage, his face grave. "This is highly inappropriate," Dr. Grantham said. "Unauthorized therapeutic intervention. She could be causing psychological harm." Harold's rage built with every word. "She's been sneaking into their room at 2 a.m. for weeks. It appears so. And they're exhibiting attachment behavior toward her. This is a serious boundary violation." Harold didn't see a miracle. He saw a predator. "My God, what has she done to them?" 6 p.m. Miranda finished her shift. Mrs. Brennan summoned her to Harold's office. She entered to find Harold behind his desk, Mrs. Brennan and Dr. Grantham flanking him like sentries. "Sit down, Miss Keith." Miranda sat, confused, nervous. Harold spun his monitor around. The footage played. Miranda's face drained of color. "Care to explain what you've been doing to my sons?" "Mr. Wilcox, I can explain they were making progress." "Progress?" Harold stood. "You call sneaking into their room in the middle of the night progress?" "I was helping them." Ethan spoke. He said his first word. Dr. Grantham cut in. "Miss Keith, you have no qualifications. What you've done is reckless." "But it worked." Miranda's voice broke. "They're connecting, they're—" Harold's voice turned lethal. "You manipulated my sons. You made them dependent on you. You tried to replace their mother." "No, I would never. I just wanted to help." "You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out." "Please, Mr. Wilcox, just listen. If you come near my children again, I will have you arrested. Do you understand me?" Security entered. Miranda stood, shaking, tears streaming. She looked at Harold one last time. "I loved them. I just loved them. Get her out of my house." Security escorted her down the hallway, past the boys' playroom. Through the window, she saw them, playing with medical staff. Ethan looked up, saw her, froze, then ran to the window, pressed his hands against the glass, and screamed. The first sound Harold had ever heard from him, a wordless wail of pure anguish. Lucas and Noah joined, all 3 boys screaming, reaching for Miranda. Miranda sobbed. Security pulled her away. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Harold watched from the office doorway. The boys were hysterical. Medical staff couldn't calm them. "Why are they screaming?" Harold asked Dr. Grantham. "Attachment behavior. It will fade. Give it time." Harold felt something twist in his chest. They've never made sounds before. Distress vocalizations, not meaningful speech. This confirms the psychological harm she caused. Harold watched Miranda's car leave the property. Inside, his sons still screamed. He'd done the right thing. He'd protected his sons. So why did it feel like he'd just made the worst mistake of his life? The boys wouldn't eat. 3 days. They refused every meal. The screaming never stopped. Ethan touched his ears constantly. 16 times an hour. Bleeding from the pressure. Lucas wouldn't look up. Back to staring at nothing. Noah rocked violently, hitting his head on the crib rails. "They've regressed significantly," medical staff reported. Harold couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Miranda's face, heard her voice. "I loved them. I just loved them." The silence had returned, but it wasn't peaceful anymore. It accused him. Night 4, 3 a.m. Harold pulled up the camera footage again. This time, he watched everything. 72 hours, 3 full weeks. Miranda's gentleness, her tears when Ethan first made eye contact, her prayers, "Guide my hands, Lord." Her patience, hours of exercises, never frustrated. Week 1, boys tolerating her. Week 2, seeking her out. Week 3, Ethan speaking. Her technique wasn't random. It was deliberate, therapeutic. And her face, when Ethan said, "Mama," that wasn't manipulation. That was love. "My God," Harold whispered. She wasn't manipulating them. She was saving them. He pulled medical files. 5 years of reports. All said the same. No significant progress possible. Recommend ongoing management. Harold searched online. Sensory integration therapy. Reputable, evidence-based. Success rate, 60 to 70% for non-verbal children. Cost, $100 to $200 per session. A fraction of what he'd paid Grantham. They never mentioned it once. Harold kept searching. Found an old assessment, dated when the boys were 18 months old. Page 7. Clinical recommendations. Typed text. Sensory integration therapy shows significant promise. Recommend immediate referral. Prognosis. Positive for verbal development within 12 to 18 months. Handwritten note below. Family expresses preference for in-house management. External referral not pursued. PG. Second note. Ongoing pharmaceutical protocol initiated per family request. No follow-up needed. LC. Harold's hands shook. Family request? I never said that. I never even saw this report. They buried it. Harold calculated. $45,000 per month. 5 years. $2.7 million versus $50,000 for successful therapy. They made $2.7 million off my son's silence. 5 a.m. Harold called Dr. Grantham. My office. 1 hour. Bring Dr. Cross. Harold's study. Report on desk. The doctors arrived. Sit down. Harold slid the report across. Read page 7. Out loud. Dr. Grantham's face paled. Harold, this is from years ago. Out loud. Grantham read, voice shaking. When did you show me this? Silence. You wrote significant promise. Then no follow-up needed. We made a clinical judgment. You made $2.7 million. Harold stood. A maid did in 3 weeks what you said was impossible. Because you told me it was impossible. We provided excellent care. You provided excellent billing. His voice broke. My sons could have been talking 3 years ago. My wife died giving birth to them. And you stole the only gift I had left. You stole their voices. We can discuss. You have 1 hour to clear out. You're done. My lawyers will be in touch. And Dr. Grantham, I'll make sure every parent in this city knows what you did. You can't prove. Harold held up the report. You signed it, dated it, buried it. Get out. The doctors left. Harold stood alone. He thought of Miranda. She knew what they needed, and I threw her out. Monitor showed his son's room. 6 a.m. 3 boys crying, reaching toward empty doorway, waiting for someone who wouldn't come. What have I done? Day 6. Harold drove to Miranda's address. No driver. Low-income apartment complex. He knocked. No answer. A neighbor appeared. Looking for Miranda? Tri-County General. Her daughter's sick. Harold drove there. Found Miranda in the billing office. She looked destroyed. Dark circles, wrinkled clothes. Please, just 1 more month. The administrator shook her head. We've extended payment twice. Without payment today, we cannot fill the prescription. She'll have a seizure without it. Through the window, Harold saw a small girl in bed, monitors beeping. He stepped inside. How much? Miranda turned. Froze. 3,400 plus 840 for medication. Harold handed over his card. Charge it. Put her daughter on my account. All expenses. Mr. Wilcox. I can't. We need to talk. Hospital cafeteria. Across from each other. I owe you an apology. You were protecting your sons. No, I was protecting my ignorance. He told her everything. The report, the conspiracy, the termination. You were right, and I was too blind to see it. Are the boys okay? No, they've regressed. They're waiting for you. I don't deserve to ask this, but they need you. Mr. Wilcox. Harold, please, I can't come back as a maid. I'm not asking you to. He slid a contract across. Developmental specialist, $125,000 per year. Full health insurance. Rent paid. I don't have credentials. You have love. And results. My son spoke because of you. I don't need credentials. I need you. Say you'll come back. Say you'll help me be the father they need. Please. Harold stood, walked around, knelt beside her chair. People stared. He didn't care. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry I threw you out when you were the only one who saw my sons. Voice breaking. You loved them when I didn't know how to. Miranda touched his shoulder. Stand up. He stood. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because they needed someone. That's all. That's everything. Miranda picked up the contract. When do I start? That afternoon. Harold's car at the mansion. Miranda nervous. They don't know you're coming. Boys wing. Harold opened the door. Ethan saw her first. Froze. Then ran. Mama! Mama! Lucas and Noah followed, all three crying. Running. Miranda knelt. Arms full. Harold watched. Tears streaming. Hi, babies. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Mama, stay. Yes, sweetheart. Mama stays. 6 months later, everything had changed. Harold on the floor with his sons. Building blocks. Miranda teaching. Ethan speaking short sentences. Lucas making eye contact. Noah playing. The mansion filled with laughter now. Harold learned love wasn't something you hired. It was something you gave. And 3 little boys learned their voices mattered. They were seen. They were loved. For the first time in 5 years, Harold Wilcox's house was filled with the sound it was always meant to hold. The laughter of children who'd found their voices, and the peace of adults who'd found their purpose. If this story touched your heart, I need you to know something. This channel needs you. We're a family here. Not just viewers, not subscribers, a family. And our mission is to reach people who need hope, people who feel powerless, people who wonder if love still matters in a world that worships money and status. Help us reach them. Join our family by subscribing right now. Your support means everything. God bless you.